So law school is an absolute terrible investment in my opinion, one of the worst investments ever. And here is why. And this is coming from someone who went to law school. So people have this misconception that all attorneys make bank, and that is simply not the case. 55% of starting law salaries fall under $100,000. And you have to remember that the remaining 45, a lot of that's big law. And so if you're not going to do big law, there's not a good chance at all you're going to make six figures starting. And and if you're working at one of the small firms or you're at the public defender office doing legal aid, the growth is not astronomical of how much you're going to make. And so if you take that and you compare it to the debt, the average law school graduate has between $120,000 and $160,000 in debt. Terrible, terrible deal. So only go to law school if you are super passionate about it and are doing it because you want to be an attorney. Do not do it because you think this is a good career advancement or a good ROI. It is not. I mean, I would recommend going to a law school too. If you don't want to do big law, go where you don't have a lot of debt, because trying to pay off six figures of debt without a six-figure income, very difficult. I would recommend going. There's a lot of law schools that give full tuition scholarship. Pretty much all of them do. The few tippy top law schools don't, but I went to Vanderbilt on a 3/4 tuition scholarship, and that was one of the best decisions I could have made, because I wanted somewhere in the middle where I was getting a good education and I felt like I was opening a lot of doors for myself, but I didn't, and I left the option of big law out there or federal clerkships out there, but I didn't want to go somewhere where I was going to have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars. So definitely go somewhere you get a good deal, and don't expect to be making $1 million a year right after graduation, and have reasonable expectations for when you graduate.
Here's why I caution people against going to law school. As somebody who was a corporate finance attorney, went to Duke Law, but when people ask me whether they should go to law school, I often discourage them from doing so. One, I find that people think that the legal profession is a slam dunk to making a ton of money, and it's not, okay? If you go to law school thinking that you're going to come out and be making a ton of money, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, that is often not the case, okay? If you go to a top law school and go into big law, great, then yes, you will. But for the majority of people that go to law school, that is absolutely not what happens. Do I think you can make a great livable income? Yes, okay? What I'm talking about is really getting into the weeds, right? Like, if you think you're gonna be rich as a lawyer, then you best be going into big law or be getting lucky by, owning your own firm and being a super successful plaintiff's attorney. I don't know. But for the majority of people, when you leave law school, you're going to be making a wage that's not that dissimilar to people that didn't go to law school, okay? It's not like you're going to be coming out with a slam dunk six-figure job. And so when you're paying all that money to go to law school, thinking that you're going to be coming out and paying off your student loans like that, making all this money, that's not really how it looks 9 times out of 10. 2, I think a lot of people go to law school thinking it is almost an extension of college. I know I went to law school thinking that. I was like, oh, I'm fresh out of college. Like, I'm going to go to law school. I'm going to come out of law school and make a ton of money. And in the meantime, while all my friends are working, I'm still going to be in school, and it's going to be like college 2.0. Law school is a professional school, and they expect you to act like it. And so it's not fun and games. It's hard AF. It's so hard. It's not this fun, cozy college experience. You're reading a ton. You're doing a ton of work. It is like having a job. So if you aren't going in expecting to take it extremely seriously, then I kind of think you're wasting your time and money. 3, there's this idea that lawyers are out here changing the world. And in a lot of cases they are. But there are so many areas of law that are not some big humanitarian efforts, okay? A lot of areas of law is you making rich people richer, is you doing glorified secretarial work, is you sitting behind a desk looking at spreadsheets and Word docs all day, okay? The amount of people who have law jobs like you see in movies that look all fun and lucrative and high excitement and changing the world is very low. And you can find them. You can find them, right? But I would say most lawyers will tell you they went into the legal profession thinking they would be doing this big, huge, wonderful thing. And it's not like that in actuality. I think the movies and things like that make it seem much different than it is. And number 4, it's really expensive. So if you have to take a ton of student loans out to pay for it, I just generally don't recommend it unless you have a really good plan on how you're gonna make that money back to pay these off.
One thing I appreciate is honesty of these lawyers, because lawyers are kind of paid to lie or argue. Look at this next clip though.
I dropped out of law school. Yeah, I dropped out of law school. I did my 1L. I was working during it. I was splitting time between Arizona and DC. It was a nightmare. I was miserable. But it's because I went to law school for the wrong reasons. Would I ever trade that experience of like living in a hotel and like having both of my laptops out in contract law and like literally losing globs of hair? Would I trade that experience for anything? No. I dropped out after that year. I said, not for me, not interested, and I went into medical device sales because I was trying to think of like, I had worked in politics, like what is people oriented? I'm interested in business. How can I like sort of run my own? Bam, med device sales. And it was amazing. It was a great almost 2 years. Went back into lobbying. And then I got hit with something that I was like, whoa, this is super messed up, and it's in the legal field, and I kind of have the skill set to help, and this is how my brain is wired. And so I am one of the few people in this country that has 2 law school personal statements. You have to write a statement about why you're applying when you apply to law school. And it's so funny because I have the first one and I have the second one. They're completely different because the reasons that I decided to go back, I think, are the right reasons. Not to say that like people that go straight through can't be in it for the right reasons. I'm just saying that like the first time I applied, I was super driven by what I thought I wanted. And I hadn't really put like, I mean, I had been like president of like legal societies in school, did all the right things. And if you would have told me during my undergrad that I wound up dropping out and then going back, I literally would have like gasped and told you were lying. But I did the best thing for me. And that wound up like, if you love it, let it go. It'll come back if it's meant for you. For me, that's law school. I guess I just say that to say that like I'm seeing all these things. I don't know whether it's my algorithm or whether there's this renaissance of people that are realizing that like what they do for work isn't fulfilling them. To say that like if you have a non-traditional path, you're still figuring it out, lean into it. Because like who cares what other people have to say? I would be lying if I say that I don't struggle with that even now. But lean in and go full force, and it's never too late. And you know, if anybody wants to talk about that, my DMs are open. I'm happy to talk about it. There are a bunch of people on this app that are great. But like I'm here. If you are considering a career change or law school or different grad school, or you just are at a place in your life where you're like, I don't know what to do and this feels completely meaningless, I've got some non-traditional advice for you. I am happy to give it.
Let me de-influence you from going to law school. This is for you type A high achiever types who have always been told that they're great at arguing. I've been a lawyer for 17 years and I've only liked doing this for like 5 of them. I just looked it up and I saw that law school is like $30,000 to $60,000 a year. That's a lot. Then that's just for tuition. And that leads me to the second thing. You're going to be lured in by the idea that you're going to make like $200,000 a year at your big fancy big law job. But the reality is that that's only true for a very small number of people. More than likely, you're just going to work in your hometown and get a job, and you're not going to get paid that much when you're just out of your first year. And before you could even get a job, you have to take the bar exam. And the bar exam sucks big time. It's like a combination of hazing, trying to figure out how to answer the questions, and study for 10 hours a day without losing your mind. I passed my first bar exam after I went to law school, and I actually took another bar exam last summer. And let me tell you, it still sucked. I had 2 kids and a full-time job. I did pass, but it was really, really hard. Inevitably, there's going to be a handful of people who can never pass the bar exam. That's pretty terrible. There are just not a lot of jobs out there that are JD preferred. And the best way to use your law degree is to be a lawyer. So did it work? Did I de-influence you from going to law school? Stick around. Tomorrow I'm going to make another video and talk about why law school might be good for some people.
5 law school things that are not worth the money. 1, a stationary monitor that you use only at home. 2, a tote bag that you use over your bag for all your books. 3, something like Anki or something like that for flashcards. 4, a printer. And 5, buying books full price from the bookstore. Honorable mention, also paying for a outline bank to use somebody else's outline instead of making one for yourself.
Thank you, my sister. That was real informative. Now, this next clip is of a guy. He's going to tell you an extreme reason why you should not go to law school. It's really important. Watch this.
Do not go to law school. It is an insane scam. Schools will charge you hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they won't even teach you how to carry a sword and balance scale while blindfolded. You just have to fucking teach yourself, I guess.
All right. I was trolling. He was trolling. But no, we have a serious clip coming up next. Watch this for real.
Let me paint the reality for you of what it looks like to be a lawyer today. First, you have to pass some undergraduate school. You have to take an LSAT test to then qualify to go to law school. You go to law school for 2 or 3 years. Usually it's 3. And then you have to take this bar exam. You come out of all of this with about, let's call it $200,000 to $300,000 in debt. And you're going to make approximately $40,000 a year to work about 80 hours a week. It's a total grind. And unless you really specialize yourself into some niche area where you're like a great trial lawyer or you're some bankruptcy, super niche attorney, you're going to work for some big law firm for your entire career, tracking your 2,000+ hours a week to hopefully make, maybe you'll break 6 figures. So do the math on when you're going to pay back the student loan that's accruing interest when you're only making 100,000. And then a lot of people have to move to bigger cities to get these jobs. So cost of living is way up. It's not set up for success.
Dropped out of law school like 4 or 5 years ago, and the reaction from my family was pretty much exactly what you'd think it was. They thought it ruined my life. And for a bit, I kind of did too. You see, the moment I knew I wanted to drop out, I was actually sitting in a contracts class, and I knew a bit about wholesaling. I knew you used a contract to become the middleman, essentially, in a deal. Just a way simpler version of that contract. I was like, hey, I don't really need this extensive legal knowledge. At that time, I was doing Airbnb, and I was doing a little bit of wholesaling, but I was doing it the wrong way. But I was just like, hey, I can make way more money than an attorney doing real estate. I don't have to work these crazy long hours, and I could probably make a decent living on my own. Fast forward 4 or 5 years later, and now I'm at where I'm at. It worked out super well. Take the risk, guys.
If you're thinking about going to law school in the United States and you're wondering if it's worth it, I'm here to break down why it's probably not worth it, especially if you come from a working class or middle class background. And often that's the people who go to law school because we think that there is social mobility in being a lawyer. And we grew up with this idea that being a lawyer meant that we would make a lot of money and we could provide for our families in a way that we didn't have growing up. But the way that the legal system is structured and the cost of law school has made it that you're likely to make more money coming out of undergrad than you are going to law school. This is the salary breakdown of the attorneys who graduated in my class, which was class of 2017, so about 6 years ago now. And you'll see that it's a bimodal distribution. We have 2 categories with not much in the middle. We have big law over here, where the average starting salary is $195K back then. Now I think it's $215 or maybe a little more. But that requires you to be in the top 5 to 10% of your class at most schools, as well as you have to work usually around 100 hours a week and sacrifice most of your life and well-being in order to have this job. It's not like tech where you get to work good hours and have high pay. If you want high pay in the legal profession, you don't get to have a life. You don't get to go on vacation. You have to sacrifice everything for this job. And the burnout rate is really high. Or you have $45,000 to $65,000. The $65,000 is usually people in New York and California, so it's not like you're living in a low-cost state. Usually the low-cost states, the average is around $45,000, and I think this has shifted a little bit to around $50,000 to $70,000, but not much. And especially when you factor in the fact that you're taking out $160,000 on average in student loan debt, even if you're responsible and have scholarships, it's going to be around that amount. And you're losing 3 years of your career where you could have been making that much money easily out of your undergrad. And then you have 3 months of studying for the bar exam, a bar exam that costs thousands of dollars to take, and then 3 months waiting for results, so another 6 months. And if you fail, another 6 months before you can start your career. And by that time your student loans are due, and you're not making much of a salary to afford rent and student loans. And I just really don't think it's worth it anymore. And it's sad to see, because this is a very important profession and it's very important for society to have lawyers. But until the system changes, it's not worth sacrificing your time and your money in a profession that's not worth it.
She didn't got all statistical and mystical on him. Yeah, tell him. Now we got a lady who's going to give her thoughts on law school. Let's see what she has to say.
A lot of people have hit me up and asked me to do a series or to do a video on whether or not law school is worth it, and I've decided I'm finally going to do it. If you're not interested in law school or the legal field, feel free to scroll by, but if you are and you want some context and you want to hear about my experience, feel free to stay. So just for background, I went to UCLA Law, I graduated, and I started my career in New York doing corporate law at Cravath, Swaine & Moore. Once the pandemic hit, I had to come back to LA, so I started working at Sidley Austin, had to take the California bar, so I'm barred in New York and California. I stopped practicing law back in 2021. I took a 5 to 6 months hiatus, and then I decided to go back to school, honestly, because I was understimulated. I went to Columbia, I got an LLM, and I focused on family law. And then I've been doing family law since. Here's the hard part. People asking whether or not law school is worth it. I'm going to give you the frank and blunt answer, which is unless you're getting into a very good law school, I don't recommend at this point in time going down that path. And what I mean by very good is I would say at least top 50, top 75. Some people really say only top 20. I don't think that it's worth the debt and the lifestyle that comes with it. I want you to bear in mind that the advice I'm giving is coming from a very big law corporate setting. If you want to do public interest, go ahead and save the world. That's so kind. You don't need my advice on saving the world. Like, if you want to do that, go ahead and do that. I have plenty of friends. My best friend does dependency law. She's amazing at it. She loves it. It's really bad pay. It's really long hours. She's emotionally exhausted. She needs therapy. When it comes to big law, it was very hard. I think the thing that I struggled with mostly was whether or not the amount of work that I was doing actually made sense with how much I was getting paid. And when you break it down, you're actually not getting paid worthwhile. I mean, especially while I was at Cravath, the hours were insane. And I believe our starting salary at that point was like $210, $220. I don't really remember. That's what a first year associate was getting. These are things that I'm saying if you decide to go into working as an attorney. I think there's a lot of other jobs where you could get paid the same amount of money, if not more, for less work. That being said, the skills and tools that I learned while in law school, chef's kiss, 10 out of 10. I would do it over and over again. My ability to see a situation, reason, my logic, like I learned so many valuable tools, not just within the classroom, but being in a graduate setting that I 1000% would recommend. Do I think it's worth going to law school, doing all of that, and not even going into big law and you're getting paid $120K, $130K? I personally don't think that's worth it. I think you can get jobs like that without a graduate program. But again, it depends on whether or not you care more about the education and the degree or whether or not that job is worth it. I personally don't think that being a practicing attorney and not working at a prestigious law firm is worth it. That is my experience. That is just what I believe. I am not going to sacrifice my entire life for 130K. Like even 220, 230 was not enough for me. You have to be paying me a lot more for you to have control over my entire life. And again, control they had. When I was working in big law, it didn't matter if it was 1 a.m., 2 a.m., like I had to be available at all times. It didn't matter if I was at brunch. I didn't really have control over my schedule. Obviously, as you become more senior of an associate, you do gain more control, but I don't really have that many friends that are still in big law that enjoy it. Like, it is a very hard job. I think you need to ask yourself what your why is. If you're going to law school to save the world, then again, this conversation's irrelevant for you. If you're going to law school because you want to learn skills and tools, I 1000% recommend it. Again, even if you're going down that path, please make sure that you get into a good law school, because otherwise, I don't necessarily think that you're even getting the level of education that you should be getting. And then if you're going to law school just to make money, make sure that you're getting into big law. Otherwise, the money's not worth it. Even in big law, it's tough. It's hard. So would I do it again? 1000%, because I think being a lawyer is dope. I believe in getting degrees. I think I'm far more intelligent than honestly 50% of the people that I meet. Like, I would definitely recommend it. But again, you got to make sure that you ask your why and that law school aligns with your why.
Okay, so it turns out she loves it. She had a little flex at the end time, but I think I'm smarter than most people. You ain't smarter than a 5th grader. How about that? How about you get on that show and see how smart she is? No, I'm playing. But look, hey man, I think she's smart. She looks pretty smart. I mean, looks can be deceiving, but she looks pretty smart to me. But if you guys know anybody who is a lawyer or who's regretting law school, let me know. I think what she said is valid at the end. You have to know your why, and it may be worth it for you, may not be worth it for you. People have different reasons why they do stuff, whatever. But if you guys think this video is crazy, you got people regretting going to college just in general, just general college. If you guys want to see that drama and that madness, click this video right here. Again, it's Josh from Talk to Him, boy, and I just talked to you, boy. I'm out. Peace.